Hey guys, welcome to the Dominate DIY Podcast, Episode 5. Hey guys, welcome to the Dominate DIY Podcast. Here we talk about how to dominate your do-it-yourself projects with simple solutions, providing valuable insights to contractors, professionals, and do-it-yourselfers. I'm your host, Mike Quist. Enjoy the podcast. Dominate DIY. We're excited for this episode. We got a lot of good information. I first want to say Happy Father's Day. This is one of my most celebrated accomplishments of my entire life, is being a father. I have 4 sons. My poor wife, she wanted that daughter really bad, but we got 4 amazing boys. They love working with Stone Coat Countertop products. They love helping us pack boxes sometimes. They love making money on the side after their schoolwork, after their wrestling practices. They're hard workers. And I want to tell my dad, that's what you taught me. You taught me how to work. I really appreciate my upbringing. I had amazing parents. My father still actually works with us. The roles have a little bit reversed. When I wanted to hang out with my dad, he was such a hard worker. We typically jumped in the work truck. We'd go out and spend the day with my dad, helping him do construction. We grew up installing windows and doors and building houses and painting houses and remodeling and putting in fences and raising a small little farm of sheep and cows and pigs and learning how to feed those. And he really just taught us how to work. And that is probably my most valuable gift I've ever been given. So Dad, happy Father's Day to you. I appreciate that upbringing. One thing that I was thinking about with Father's Day, probably what impacted my life hugely was when I was 14 years old. My dad asked me to come help him get some firewood, and he was going with some of his buddies who all had chainsaws, and a site was getting prepped for a house, and so they had to cut a bunch of trees down to prep for this house, and the trees were going to make great firewood. It was actually a bunch of oak, and oak is heavy and dense, and it's just a hard wood, right? So he asked me to come help, and when we went out there, you got 3 grown men on chainsaws, and you got me, and there's a wheelbarrow. Well, guess who got put on wheelbarrow duty? That's what I didn't realize of what I was in for, and it was a weird sight because you could either go up the long way where the wheelbarrow would be a gradual kind of a switchback going up to the road where that wood would get put into the back of these trucks. And what we were doing is cutting this wood up, and each grown adult there who was getting firewood for their house was just splitting the wood. We're all working together. But there was only one guy loading the trucks, and we all know that you could run a chainsaw pretty fast and that wood piles up. Well, my dad said, hey, just keep up the best you can. He really didn't know how well I do or how well I wouldn't do, but at 14 years old, I was playing football. I was a lineman, and so I was all about working out and exercise and things like that. And the short route was up a very steep section of the hill. And I didn't really ask, and we just started throwing that wood in the wheelbarrow. And I saw if I could push it up that hill, and sure enough, it was difficult, but you could get it up this short route and do it much quicker than going the long route, which today was definitely the route I would go. And my dad watched me do this all day while they're cutting and sharpening their saws, and I didn't take a break. I just kept running that wood up and I was making a game out of it. I was having a good time, not really thinking much of it. Just I'm working out. I'm getting ready for football. I'm pumping those quads and getting up the hill. I remember listening to a short documentary on Walter Payton, and that's what he did. He used to run those hills. That's why he was so dang good. He was in very, very excellent physical condition. So my dad got me in the truck on the way home, and we got full loads of wood, and everybody's ready to rock. And on the way home, he looked at me, and I remember this as if it was yesterday because it impacted me, because I looked up to my father, and everything that he told me, he was honest. He didn't tell me I did an excellent job if I didn't, but he didn't criticize too much. But if we were an idiot, he'd let us know, right? Well, on this ride home, he told me, Mike, I will never look at you as a boy again. To me, you're a man. What you did today, none of us grown men would have or possibly could have done. You're a man. I cannot believe what you did. And I was taken back. I wasn't expecting that. But I processed it as a kid, and it built my confidence, and it made me want to do that more. It made me get that positive reinforcement from my father, and it made me want to work really hard and impress him more because that meant so much to me. That's what I try to do to my kids and my boys. My oldest is 14, and the kid's a monster. Goodness gracious, he's taller than me now, and I love raising these boys, and I love the opportunity that we get as fathers. So if I can say anything in this podcast, it is go reinforce your kids. If you can, your grandkids, whoever you can lift up by giving them that positive reinforcement when it's due. Make sure you take those opportunities because, at almost 40 years old today, I feel like that was said to me yesterday, and I appreciate you, Dad, for saying that, and it made me work harder and harder every day. So let's get on to the podcast. We had a great class this last couple days. It went amazing. We had a couple of Q&A sessions, and I think the next time we're going to film these Q&A sessions just so we could share it with you guys. But man, the questions were really deep, and they were in depth, and they were right on the money. And you could tell, with this process of learning how to use epoxy on wood slabs, on tables, on furniture, on countertops, and all these different effects, and the business part of it, and how to sell jobs, and how to make your business successful, and how to advertise, and all these things come into play. We had a school teacher out here, and she teaches 6th grade science and wanted to learn something new. She did amazing. We had a lot of folks out here wanting to do this as a business. We had a guy, Patrick from Boston. He's made 20-something wood slab tables. Now he wants to add this to his business and do countertops. We have a guy come from Alabama via the UK. He was amazing. Big rugby player. Wow, Jason, thanks for coming out. We had... I made a big mistake. Yesterday, I had Rhonda and Troy and Craig and Dylan. They all opted to come on the podcast and film with us and just talk about their experience. And I pressed the wrong doggone button for the audio. So the audio was getting picked up off the computer and not my mic. So you can't hear anything. It's all mumbled. It wouldn't be acceptable for this. So I really apologize to those folks. Craig and Dylan, father and son team out of Utah. They have a epoxy business currently going. They saw some of our videos, really liked some of our processes, came out here to learn. They did awesome. Rhonda, she already teaches faux painting. She's already used our products for a long time, came out here to kind of get that advanced step or booster learning curve, and she was amazing. We learned a lot from her. Rhonda, apologize. Call me up. Rhonda has a pretty good social media following. Call me up. We'll put you on the podcast. Any of you who want to be on the podcast again, just call. We'll do a phone conversation over the podcast. Sorry about that. I wanted to talk to Patrick. Patrick, he came to our class, and he came on Tuesday. And our class isn't until Thursday. Well, his flight was that way because he's coming from Boston, and he was going to get in really late if he came in on Wednesday, so he just came a day early from when he was going to, and I found that out. And so I called him up and said, hey man, I feel bad you're here early. Let's go out to dinner. So Patrick and I went out to dinner, and what a story this guy has. His son played lacrosse, really good college athlete, and he ended up getting an infection from his mouth guard and had a bunch of strokes. First, this is cool because it's Father's Day, and he, we have a couple father and son teams. You got Craig and Dylan. They're a father and son team. Dylan's going to school for graphic design, and they like to work together installing these and building their business. Dylan has these things he has to do for college as websites, and he's actually using their business instead of actually these generic homework assignments. And the teacher's like, what is that? And getting excited about epoxy. Well, Patrick, kind of the same lines. He's a grown man. He's already successful, and he loves woodworking, and he's taken these wood slabs to a whole new level. The work that he's doing is phenomenal, and he learned a couple things out here that I think will help his business. Well, we got to talking at dinner, and his son, who played lacrosse for college, he got that infection. He ended up having a number of strokes, and it really affected his ability to live how he was living. And his short-term memory, from what I hope I'm not botching the story, Patrick, but it was affected. And so him and his son are actually working together. and they're working on this as a business, and they're building it as a business. And I am so excited for them to go and move into countertops as well as their wood slabs. They're selling the wood slabs to high-end clients out there in, Martha's Vineyard and things like that. And man, I'm proud of you. Your work is phenomenal. But one thing that Patrick told me I was really stoked about, it's such a small world. He has an Airbnb house, so he has a number of rooms. He showed me pictures of his house out there in Boston. It's in the suburbs, and it's gorgeous. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful setting. And he rents out 3 of these rooms in his house, and then he runs it almost like a bed and breakfast. So he cooks for his clients in the morning. So he has conversation, and one morning he was talking to a guy who was visiting him, and the guy was going to school to finalize his PhD. And Patrick goes, well, what is it in? And then the guy responds, and I wish Patrick was telling the story, and maybe we'll try to get him to do that via a phone call or something like that, in which I'm sure he would. Patrick and I are now lifelong buddies, man. And that's what happens at these classes. You meet people that you immediately connect to. You become friends, and that's our business model. We love the relationships that we create. We like it when you call in. We like it when we get to have that ongoing dialogue with you. Patrick actually is from the East Coast, and we have a fellow here who's with our customer service, very, very knowledgeable, and his name's Patrick. So he goes, hey, I'm Patrick from the East Coast. I'm Patrick from the West Coast, and they're good buddies. Anyhow, Patrick tells me the guy who's visiting him and having breakfast, studying for his PhD, he goes, what's it in? He goes, it's in materials. And he goes, what kind of materials? What do you mean? He goes, well, probably something you wouldn't have much interest in. It's in epoxies. Patrick's eyes light up. He goes, epoxies? Yes, I am interested. And then he brings up the fact that he's using our products and wanted to know if he was overpaying, which I'm totally, that's the same thing I would do, right? And the guy told him, you know what? We're very aware of that product, Stone Coat Countertops. We've actually ordered and tested it, and you are not paying too much. He explained to him the molecular structure, the additives that we put in, the amount of money that we spend in giving you the best products that we can and keeping our prices absolutely as low as we can isn't a facade. We really do that, and we really want your long-term business. So we know, and we don't really spit this out, so I'm almost embarrassed of saying it, but we know that we are giving you the best thing that you can get for your money, and we know that you're going to test other things, and that's what I would do, but we know you'll come back to our product because you're getting good value. And so that's what you'll always get from us, is as much value as we can give. That's why we do these podcasts. That's why we do the videos. That's why we have the customer service. That's why we answer the phone. We plaster our phone number everywhere so we can be a full service outfit, and that's what we want to do, because that's what I need from people that I'm buying things from. So thank you for your support, but that's what we're trying to do. Patrick, thanks for he actually told that story during our class on the Q&A, which was way cool of him. And thank you, Patrick, for sharing that, and keep it up out there in Boston. So let's get on with the podcast. We're going to take some Q&A from our hotline. I'll put the hotline number down below. You can call that anytime with questions. If it's a while before we can get to these questions, we will have somebody call and answer those for you, if not myself, but we'll also cover it here so everybody can hear those responses. Again, happy Father's Day. Let's get started with the Q&A right now.
Hi, Mike. My name is Keith. Greetings from the other end of the USA, all the way up here in Windsor, Maine. I am just in the process of building a new 30 square foot kitchen countertop in my shop. I'm doing it per your turn wood into granite video. I love the idea of being able to make a granite look in 15 minutes. I just have a question about sanding. I applied the first base coat of paint and primer to the MDF and lightly sanded it with 220, and then applied the second base primer coat. I wasn't sure if I needed to, but I also then lightly sanded that second coat. Then I did the flood coat of water on the surface and applied the spray paint to it and torched it to create the granite effect I wanted. It's dry now, but I'd like to know if it needs to be sanded before applying the first coat of epoxy, or to just leave it as is and apply the epoxy. Your product is really awesome. Thanks so much for all you do. In case you need it, my phone number is 207.
Hey Keith, thank you so much for the call. Great questions. Thanks for watching our videos and then applying those principles. You're doing a good job sanding between coats. You're creating that mechanical bond. But when you're doing that water effect where you're spraying spray paint into water, that kind of thing, you really need to let it dry. We wait the next day before we apply epoxy. And you can sand that with 220, but just do it light so you don't mess up those effects. But if you don't sand it with 220, that material is still going to saturate. You know, we got this question at our class, and what we, they said, hey, how important is sanding? Well, it's really important to have that good mechanical bond, but we're so on the other side of insurance. We want to make sure our jobs last so long, and so we prep everything as if it's our life depends on it, right? We're really serious about our prep. But guess what? If you forgot to sand, this material bonds so well, it's going to bond. We just want to make sure we have that peace of mind. But if you didn't sand, you're okay. But we always lightly sand with 220 if we can. But you don't want to mess up that effect that you did with that spray paint in the water and fracturing it. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out, how to turn wood into granite. That's a cool video. It's a cool technique, but it requires definite drying time because you're adding water first. Thanks, Keith, for that question. Call anytime. You got this, brother. Right on, man. Let's take the next call.
Hey, Mike. This is Ken. I'm south of Oklahoma City. First of all, I just want to say I'm really, really impressed with your videos and what you do, and I want to say thank you. I've got a pretty good project going on here. I don't want to take a great deal of your time, but just to give you an idea of what's going on, just kind of try to use your mind's eye here and see if you can figure it out. I'm doing a shower. I'm going to do the ceiling of the shower in a black granite, and I'm probably going to put a touch of white, kind of put a little bit of white in there just to give it almost a galaxy, Milky Way type look. Floor is going to be like a black fractured marble look. Where I'm going with the walls is I'm going to do a variation of your infused silver and your infused copper. Might throw a few of my own colors in there just to give a little bit of my own touch. Because of the complexity of this, I'm going to do a kind of an inset shelf, little box thing for like the shampoos and whatnot, stuff like that. And I'm also going to do a stool set kind of at an angle in there. So again, because of the complexity of this, I'm going to have some issues where I've got vertical and horizontal pieces in this. So that actually brings up my first question. Is it going to cause any problems if I set this thing in a position where I can do my verticals as horizontals, do all my coats and everything on that, and then lay it down where my horizontals are actually horizontal? If I kind of brush everything out, make sure that everything doesn't flow down. Also, where the where my little shampoo thing is, I'm going to make it look like water is flowing out of that. It's going to be like a waterfall coming down the wall, hitting the floor, and then running across the floor into the drain. Now, everything that I've seen that you've done so far has been motivated on, torching the bubbles out, stuff like that. What I would like to do is see if there's a way where I can actually incorporate bubbles into where the waterfall hits the floor and kind of give it a little bit of depth and actually put some bubbles in there, to make it look a little bit more real. So anyway, those are my two questions, the bubble thing and pouring verts and horizontals if it's going to mess things up, if I can lay it down and stand it up.
Oh, it looks like you got cut off there, Ken, but that is an amazing project. I gotta see pictures of it. What a cool idea. Let's get started on the answers. Yes, we like to pour all of our shower panels flat and then install them vertical. We mock it up first. We cut all our pieces, dry fit it, make sure we're good to go, or overcut it. Add a little bit to the backside that you could cut in place if you can't mock it up if you're going to be demoing. And then what we'll do is we'll router our edges. We'll put a nice eased edge at 1/8 inch radius on the exposed edges. We'll red guard the backside of our panels in 2 coats. We'll red guard the sheetrock for 2 coats, and that really gives us a nice waterproof system. We're going to tape off those joints and use 100% silicone at the joints in the shower. The inset shelf, same thing. You're going to make those 5 parts. It'll be your surround, your 4 parts, and then the back panel. Make those in 5 parts. You could even make those up and pre-silicone that all together as one piece. Red guard the whole thing, inset it, and then put your panel on. You could even build it and then attach that to your wall panel and put that in as one piece. That's how we would do it, ensuring that it's all square, and tape it up and get it all set overnight and then install it as one piece. Put Tyvek tape on the back so you could easily remove the drips and make sure you got 2 coats of red guard. Let's get into the decorative part of that, the waterfall idea. Such a sweet idea. What I think I would do is I would install everything without the waterfall. I'd tape off that drain really good. I'd pour my blue and whatever other colors you're going to use as that water, and I'd kind of pour it right in that inset, let it come down, let it work its way to the drain. You could even create like a little tape dam to force it the way you want, and then you could pull that and let it flow a little bit. And then instead of trying to get bubbles, because it's not going to want to show any bubbles. I don't know how to keep bubbles in it other than I just missed a little bit of white where it's hitting, so it represents that fog of a waterfall hitting. That's how I paint. I actually like doing landscape painting with oils wet on wet, and I'm actually doing some spray paint painting and stuff like that, but put some white there where it hits and it'll allude to that fog, and instead of trying to keep bubbles, or that's what I would do. Another thing you could do is just mix a small batch, whip it up, whip a little bit of white in there, and let it set up a lot in the bucket so it almost starts to, that'll foam almost. And because it's not supposed to be left in the bucket, pour a little bit of that out. But I'd test it first. I don't know how that's going to come out. It might still clear up on you, because after you get it out, it wants to clear up. So don't have an answer on keeping the bubbles in, but I do have an answer just spraying a little bit of that white. I got to see this project. It's going to be awesome. Great thoughts. Let's get on to the next question. Here we go.
Hi, Steve. My name is Ravi Reddy. I am calling from Sacramento, California. I have been following you and your videos on YouTube for at least 2 years now. I'm a great fan of all your work and your videos. Every day, as with every new video, you're making it so much simpler and easier for everyone that I'm so motivated to do my first project this summer. I am just waiting for it to get started. I'm just waiting for it to become a little warm so that I can start working with this epoxy, do a renovation project on my kitchen and my bathrooms. So what I wanted to ask you was, I know you have a training session set up. Wondering if you have any plans of doing any kind of workshops, like like they call them as roadmaps or workshops. If you were to do that, that would be a great hit, because I know a lot of people, including me and my friends here in Sacramento, would love to have such a workshop where, we can try your product hands-on, and it would be a great hit, I'm saying. And if you have any such ideas, or if you don't have an idea, maybe it's a great idea for you to start something like that, because I'm pretty sure your fans all over the U.S. would love to see you try your product, and it's also a great publicity, I think. But anyways, just wanted to let you know that. And also, I had another question. Do you guys have anything for flooring? I have tile floor, and I wanted to know if you guys have any product to transform the tile, just like how we are doing the countertops. So let me know, and once again, you guys are doing a great job. I love your videos. Keep them coming, and thank you. Thank you for everything. Have a nice day.
Right on. Robbie Reddy from Sacramento. Man after my own heart right there. I grew up in Elk Grove, south of Sacramento. So you're in my roots right there, brother. Thanks for the call. Great questions, great comments. Let's get started on the first one. So Rhonda, who was on the podcast with the bad audio, she's actually already teaching faux classes, and she asked, "Hey, can I start teaching these techniques in my faux class?" And this is how I responded. I says, Rhonda, we set up our classes once a month, and they sell out extremely quickly. It's actually hard to get a seat in our class. And we keep our prices very low and very competitive so that it's not a huge expense to come out here and learn. We want to help you get successful and create that long-term relationship. We don't charge a lot for our class for that purpose. Now, that being said, they fill up really quick, and we can't really have enough spots for how many people want to come out. So we're absolutely wanting to help people like Rhonda's in Texas. So if she can teach the same techniques we're teaching in Texas for people who don't have to come all the way out here, we're stoked about that. Keith out in Chicago, he teaches people in Chicago. Carlos in Arizona, I believe he wants to start teaching people in Arizona. So we have no problem with that. We just don't want you to say, hey, I'm teaching I'm with Stone Coat Countertops. That's a legalistic thing. You can use our products. And then what they do is they buy our products in bulk, and then they retail our product without the shipping because they already have it there. And we sell in bulk depending on how much you're buying. If you're interested in that bulk price list, just give us a call. We'll email you that bulk price list. It starts at 12 gallons and works its way up. So would I come to Sacramento and do a class? Maybe. Here's the deal: is it's logistically difficult to set up everything that you need for a class outside of our controlled environment, because we're prepping boards, we're painting boards, we're routering boards, we have the tables, everything's level, we have racks to put the samples, we have all the equipment, we have all the torches for many people here, we have all of our spray paints, we have all of our metallics, we have all of our base colors, everything's set up multiple amounts so that the class has access to everything. We have large boards, we have small samples so the class can keep those. I could probably come do a modified version where we're working as a group project if you had a setting that I could come set up in, or a shop, or help me logistically set up for it, because it's a ton of work. We put in so much work before a class, before one person shows up, so that it goes seamlessly smooth. If you ask anybody who's attended our classes, I'm sure that they'll agree that we have a great curriculum set up. We're very calculated on how long we take at everything to give you the most bang for your buck. We take it very seriously when somebody flies across the country to come out here to take a class, that we're ready for them and that we jam them full of information in an organized fashion. So would I do it in Sacramento? It would definitely be difficult to get that same level of service outside of something that we've spent so long getting set up perfect. Plus, a class makes a big mess. So if your floors aren't totally prepped, if your walls aren't prepped, you got to make sure that it's in an environment that we can make a mess in, because we have fun. And when you're brand new at epoxy, everybody knows you're getting it everywhere, versus when you're really clean at it, it's pretty controllable. So I would love to, but let's talk about that. Give me a call. We'll talk about the logistics of it. And I am probably going to go out to Texas as Rhonda gets this going, and she and team teach a class with her, or come, just kind of help her and just make sure that she has the help that she needs to make sure she has all the questions answered that she has. I'm not going to charge her for that. I just want to go out and help her out. That's our philosophy, is to help get your businesses rocking. We're also going out to this next week. We're going out to Alaska per this podcast, because the questions are about vertical splash a lot. We're going to go out there and show. We have a great project, and we're going to team do this video. We were asked, actually, after the podcast, Carlos called us up. His dad saw the podcast. His dad said, hey, man, I'm going to be doing a project out here. See if Mike and his team wants to come out and do this with Carlos. So we're going out to Alaska, and we're going to do that with Carlos next week, and we'll bring you guys along and show you the process. Randy, your next question about tile floor. Yes, we have a flooring epoxy. Anytime we go over tile, we prep that with Level Quick Primer and Level Quick to make sure everything's sealed. We don't want you to waste epoxy by trying to hide your grout joints with epoxy. Use Level Quick, it's much cheaper, and then go over the top of that with our floor epoxy. We got some good videos on how to install flooring epoxy, and we got a lot more coming. We got a great video coming for floors. I don't want to spoil it, but it's going to be sweet. But our current videos are very in-depth of how to install this over existing floors. Good job. Thanks for the question. Let's take one more.
Hi there. My name is Christy. I am calling from Washington. I just finished last night my first pour with the colors, and I'm not happy with the results. After watching a ton of videos and doing a million practice boards, I decided to go with a color that I hadn't practiced with before, and so I'm not happy with it. And not to mention there was 2 small areas where I had burned the epoxy, and then when I woke up this morning, I found a moth that had landed in it. So I prepped the MDF. I did a rock face edge. It was really cool. I was really excited about it, and now I'm a little bit devastated. What my question is can I sand the top and start over using my existing MDF, what I have already put so much time and effort into? So if you could answer that for me. Actually, I got one more question too. On one of the edges where I had poured the epoxy off into a bucket, the excess, it built up quite a bit on my rock face edge. And so can you also apply Bondo to kind of just repair that spot over the epoxy? And would you recommend pouring a second coat, clear coat first before sanding and starting over? Or do I have to scrap the whole thing and start from scratch? If you could answer that for me, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. My phone number is 509.
Christy, great questions. Hey, thanks for calling. These are exactly, we want you to call in when you hit these situations. We want to help you out with free project support. Let's get started on, let's start with the bugs. So you got a moth in your top. There's a couple things that you can do to help prevent this in the first place. And I'll tell you what we do is first, we turn off the lights after we've poured our coat, because bugs are they're attracted to that high gloss reflection. Another thing that we do is my brother had gotten a little machine that I don't know if it's a centrifuge in it or something, or it attracts the bugs with pheromones, or I don't know what it is. It's this little bug attractor, and they fly in this thing, and it's kept bugs out of it. It's like it's got a light on it, so it attracts them, and it's more attractive than our countertops. So it stopped a lot of those bug problems. If you do get a moth in there, get a little Dremel or get a drill bit that's a real, like a 16th or 32nd drill bit. Get in there and drill it out in perfectly. Don't do like a perfect circle, and then you could fill that with a little bit of color, and you'll never see that bug was there. That's how we get bugs out of the color coat. Can you do another coat over the top of what you're not satisfied with? Absolutely. Actually, one of the selling points of this product is, let's say 5 years down the road, you've changed your decor, you have different curtains, you got different tastes. You can sand it with 220. First, clean it. You want to clean and degrease it, sand it with 220, and you could do a brand new coat right over the top. Anytime. You could also do a clear coat anytime. It doesn't matter how long it's set, as long as you create that mechanical bond. When it's fresh and brand new, a lot of times we don't get rid of, we don't like paint and primer and one over that. We'll use that as the base that you'll see through. Maybe you have a few effects and it creates better depth. You never have to pull out that MDF and redo that. That's totally not necessary. Use that to your advantage, and your practice boards are critical. So do something that you're really comfortable doing and then transfer that to your total countertop project. But yeah, you don't need to pull out your hard work on all that MDF. The edge where you had some drip over and kind of hide that rock face, you sand that heavily with 220. You could do the same thing with bonding primer, paint that edge again, and you'll be just fine. You could redo that little section. Yeah, I mean, I think that answers your questions. If you have any more questions on that, call us up. We're happy to answer those. I like that you asked those questions. We appreciate that, and that job is totally fixable. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the 5th Dominate DIY podcast. I really, again, want to thank the class that had come out this last couple of days. I also want to say Happy Father's Day, and I want to say thank you to our staff here at Stone Coat Countertops for always stepping up to the plate, especially when we have so many guests here at our shop. It becomes really crazy busy. We have lots of walk-ins all day. We got lots of calls all day, and they really do an amazing job. Happy Father's Day to all the men out there that use our products, everybody listening to this. And until next time, from the Dominate DIY podcast, you got this. Thanks for listening. Dominate DIY.